Hi, welcome back to another episode of Social Anxiety Life. This is Season 2, Episode 8, where we deep dive into the topics that matter to you. Today, we're exploring a very modern dilemma, social anxiety and phones. How do our phones help us to cope, and how do they sometimes make things worse? We're going to hear lots of listener contributions today, as well as some recent poll results.
Let's start with some really interesting insights from our recent Instagram and Facebook polls. We asked, does your phone help you to cope with social anxiety? And a surprising 36% said yes, and a significant 64% said no. This tells us that while some people find comfort in their phones, some others may experience increased anxiety. And when it comes to specific triggers, everybody in our survey said that calling on a telephone triggers their anxiety rather than texting. It highlights the immediacy and unpredictability of calls can be daunting. And then specifically at social occasions, 53% of you check your phone a lot, 41% sometimes, and 6% never do. And this is influenced by social anxiety.
Absolutely. So I think we'll go straight into our first listener contribution, which is from Lisa on Facebook, who shared, I have anxiety over my phone. I have to know I can be contacted at any time in case anything bad happens to anyone I love.
Very powerful statement.
Yeah.
That says to me that, you know, the purpose of a phone is connectivity. It's to be connected to other people. And she's got a very specific purpose there, that she needs to be contactable in case of anything that happens. And whilst that's the purpose,
yeah,
there's still, even today, my phone went off this morning. It was a telephone call and I didn't answer it. And I didn't answer it because there was a number on there, but I didn't recognise the number.
Yeah.
It was a mobile number, but I didn't answer it because I didn't know who it was.
Oh, if it's an unknown number, I will almost never answer that phone call.
Why don't you answer it?
I think it's because I don't know if worry or anxiety maybe is the word, but yeah, sort of have anxiety over like, who is it? What do they want to talk about? Am I going to kind of get stuck in an awkward conversation, or am I going to get stuck on a phone call I don't want to be on? I sort of think if it's anyone important, I probably have their number. So I do tend to avoid those unknown callers.
Would you call them back if they left an answer phone message?
Yes. Oh, yeah. If it was something important, or that if it was, it's this person, you were expecting a call from me, then I'd be fine phoning back.
Yeah, this person didn't leave an answer phone message, so I didn't call them back, and they haven't phoned since this morning. No. So I left it. Is there, in light of this contribution, is there then a sense of the phone possibly causing anxiety because it's constantly on, it's constantly by your side, it's constantly needs to be in use in case of anything happening? Does that cause the anxiety?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of saw it in a slightly different way of, is the anxiety around people that this person cares for and loves, and is the phone almost acting more of like a safety net, actually giving the comfort of, well, if my phone's on, then I know that if something happens, I can be contacted.
I think therefore it prevents uncertainty.
Yeah.
Because it's there and because it's connected, it provides a sense of temporary relief.
That sort of reassurance that you can be contacted if you need to be.
But surely if we move it to work, for example, you know, I have to have my phone switched off at work and I have to put it away. So I can't be carrying it around with me in the job that I do. And I'm sure it's the same with you as well. I know that doesn't really cause me anxiety, any sort of anxiety, because that's one of the protocols. It's one of the things that we have to do in our position. And surely if you have it on all the time or you're having it next to you, does that show like a dependence on it?
Yeah,
in some
possibly.
way.
I suppose, if you get into the routine of constantly checking your phone or being over reliant on having it with you, I suppose it could go the opposite way and become a bit of a negative.
I think moving on from that contribution, we had a contribution come in from Courtney, who's a first-time contributor, and she's also recently joined our Facebook group.
Oh, welcome.
Which is really good. She says it very much depends on the situation. If she's hanging out with someone one-on-one, she tries not to look at it at all, unless I'm showing the person a picture, or have to look up something related to our conversation. But at larger gatherings, I tend to browse my phone more.
Yeah, this resonates a lot with me. I feel like she is me.
Yes. I mean, breaking that down, I relate to all of that because I do it.
Mm-hmm.
One-on-one, I will check my phone. If there's a lull in the conversation slightly, then I will get my phone out. And I think bringing it back to social anxiety, it varies depending on the social context, which I think is what we both find. Also, looking at the phone, does it serve as a way of avoiding engaging in the uncomfortable social interaction? So, if you're in the group and you've got to a topic where everyone's talking about the same thing, and you haven't experienced that experience, what do we do?
Yeah, well, I think it's something that I do. I find I do quite a lot as, I guess, like a comfort. If I'm in a social situation and there's lots of people, I do try to avoid looking at my phone while I'm in conversation. But if I find there's a moment where it goes a bit quiet, or if let's say I leave the room and then I come back and everyone's kind of moved and there's no one really for me to go and talk to, and I find myself standing on my own, I suppose it's that comfort of, right, well, I'll just get my phone out and I'll just look at something on my phone a little bit until someone comes up to me or until I can see a way in somewhere. I definitely find in the larger social gatherings that my phone is or can be a real comfort to me. But also that thing of one-on-one, I definitely try to make the effort if I'm one-on-one with someone to not just constantly be on my phone. Because I know people that, like, I'll meet up with them and it's like they are just on their phone constantly. And I find it quite rude because it's like we've met up, we've made this effort to kind of see each other, and they're just on their phone so much that it's almost like you don't feel that interest in the conversation.
Would you find, though, for those of us that do experience social anxiety at varying degrees, does the phone compensate for the social interaction? So the situation you've just described, and I get my phone out and I'm looking at, generally I tend to check social media at that point. And then I am listening to the conversation. I'm listening to what everyone else is talking about. And, sometimes it will be, right, it's got to the point where, okay, I feel that I could contribute something now. Then I put the phone away. But I know that there are some of our contributions that have come in actually do back up what you just said about, having the phone out. Other people don't like it because it infers that your attention isn't on what they're doing.
Yeah.
When actually, if you flip it back to, say a neurodivergent perspective, I don't always have eye contact with people who are talking to me. And I'm not being rude.
No.
I'm not dismissing what you're saying. I am consciously taking in what you're saying. I just don't, that's not my best way of taking the information in.
I suppose for me, it's not that it bothers me when people get their phone out in conversation, if they do it a bit. But I find if I'm sort of telling a story and mid-story someone gets their phone out and I can tell they're not really engaged in what I'm saying, that's kind of where I have a bit of an issue with it.
It's funny because one of our listeners, Lisa, actually messaged us in today to say that she very rarely takes her phone out when she's with other people or in that conversation. And she'll say to the other person or people, "Oh, I'm just getting my phone out. I'm just checking."
Oh, that's very polite.
Something.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a minority though, because I don't very often.
No, I wouldn't
hear or see
do that. Yeah, I wouldn't myself. If I was kind of sat with people and I wanted to check something on my phone, I would never announce it.
I suppose it depends what you're looking at. I understand if it's coming to the end of the meetup and say you want someone to come and pick you up, or say your partner's come to pick you up, then I would probably say, "Oh, I'm just going to message my partner to come and pick me up at the street corner," as it were.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
So that's an intended purpose. But I wouldn't say, no, if it's got to the anxiety point and I get my phone out, I wouldn't say something like, "Oh, I'm just checking Facebook for a couple of minutes."
Yeah.
Or I wouldn't say, "Well, actually, I don't find the conversation very stimulating at the moment, so I'm just going to check my phone because I'm bored of what you're saying."
Of course you wouldn't.
Do you imagine that? If you said, if you brought it out as blatantly as that it crosses the line, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Of the meaningful social interaction. It just shows you're not interested.
Yeah. I suppose that's the thing. It is the context, isn't it? Because if I was at, let's say, a party, not that I go to many, but if I was at a party and I saw, someone sitting on their own on their phone, I wouldn't think much of it. I wouldn't think it was rude. I wouldn't, I think, oh, well, they obviously need a bit of time out, or they're just, having a moment doing what they're doing. I suppose for me, it's in those more like intimate meetups, like if it is just you and one other person, and that person, it just spends 90% of the time you're talking on their phone, which is probably a rare thing, but I've known it before, people to be like that.
In fact, Nicola says that she finds it very frustrating when others constantly check their phones and smartwatches, saying that she gets her phone out specifically for photos or to arrange going home, which is what we've just said. And that's a mixture of the face-to-face interactions that, it's almost, apparently we're built for that social interaction, that face-to-face interaction. I get that sometimes we don't always want that, but it's almost that's what the majority of people want.
Yeah. And Michael had a sort of a similar input of, Michael tries to give people his full attention, keeping his phone in his pocket, especially during drinks. But he does know it's difficult when other people are glued to their screens. So I think that's that thing of when someone else is on their phone a lot, you're not necessarily getting that reassurance or that interaction back that you might need. And that can be quite frustrating.
It's almost, the phone has got a dual purpose here. It's like, it's either used as a shield for the social anxiety, or it causes the anxiety itself.
Yeah.
So I know that, I'll freely admit, I've been to social things and I've got my phone out, start checking my phone and everything. And I'll be honest, I'm being bored. I haven't been stimulated by the conversation, or I don't know what to say. So I need something.
Yeah. Like a distraction.
In the moment. And then I get myself back on.
Yeah.
But I don't know how comfortable I would feel in letting the whole group or letting other people know that, or saying that, the phone's one of my strategies for coping.
Yeah.
I don't know how that gets taken.
Yeah. No, I suppose it's one of those things you don't, there is no need to announce, "Oh, I'm on my phone because I'm struggling." But equally, if you have the confidence to do that, then why not?
Moving on now to another first time contributor via Instagram, Miss E.
Hi, Miss E.
Now, she shared that, particularly about calling on the phone, and it can be stressful because of the pressure to respond quickly, especially when the call is unexpected. Planning what to say beforehand helps reduce her anxiety. So, when you get a call and you've decided to answer it, trying to do that immediate response is hard.
Yeah.
When you're not sure what it is.
Yeah, and I think it's a bit like when you're in person with someone, that's, or can be part of social anxiety, is having something to say, like that pressure to try and keep the conversation going, to sound interesting, to know what to say at the right time. And just because you're on the phone, especially if it's an unexpected call, that pressure can still be there. even though there's sort of that barrier between you and that you're not in person, you know, those unexpected phone calls, that pressure is still there of what do I say? How do I say it?
Exactly. It's a fear of like not being able to communicate what you want, or fear of being misunderstood, or you just don't know what to say, or, you know, sometimes there's the pause. There's a pause there and you're not quite sure what to say. But pausing is fine, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know if it feels more awkward on the phone, the pauses, because I suppose in person, if there's a bit of a pause, especially if you're comfortable with someone, it's fine. You can read it, but on the phone, it's almost more awkward and uncomfortable when there's a pause, and you feel more pressure to fill that silence.
Yeah, I've alluded to this before. I mean, when I've listened back to earlier episodes of Social Anxiety Live, someone pointed out to me, with all good intentions, that I was saying and quite a lot.
Right.
And they advised me to, if it got to the point where I was going to say that, is to just pause so I can find my place again.
Yeah.
And it does make a bit of a difference, that stop and listen, and then I sort of know what to say after that, which is a useful piece of advice.
I had very similar advice actually recently, because I've been doing a bit more, shall I say, public speaking and like presenting than I'm particularly comfortable with. It's something I'm having to kind of do a lot more nowadays. And someone gave me the exact same advice of, it's okay to stop and it's okay to pause and it's okay to take a breath. Because I think I have that feeling like I need to just keep talking, and I can't just stop and take a breath because that looks weird. But actually, it's really helpful advice.
And we had another contribution from Danica, who said that she feels the need to mentally rehearse her responses, preferring texting or emailing over calls for the think time that they provide.
Yeah, I suppose that's about being able to kind of rehearse a response, and that sort of providing some level of comfort, because you know that you'll be able to give the response that you want to and not fumble or struggle in the moment.
I also think it links to one of the neurodivergent traits is scripting. So you have these scripts in your head that you've rehearsed, because it gives like a sense of routine and rigidity to the conversation. So when you're being called, and you don't know what to say, it does put you at a slightly anxious stance, because you don't know what to say.
Yeah.
And it's dependent upon what the person wants, what they're asking you. It almost feels like, you know, when your phone's called about something, say it's someone that, you know, say it's a payment for something. Yeah. That's straightforward in a way, because you know they're phoning you because a payment hasn't gone through or they need payment for this. If someone's phoning you up, maybe just to see how you are, I would do it with trusted people. Yeah. But that would feel quite difficult. And yeah, there's almost an avoidance, pushing for an avoidance of the real time communication.
Yeah, because I was just thinking, you know, it's great in the short term as a sort of coping strategy to be able to rehearse your responses, but that's not the reality of life. You're not always going to be able to rehearse your responses. There are going to be times where you're going to have those spontaneous phone calls or those spontaneous interactions. So it's a great strategy, but it's only really a strategy for certain situations.
It's funny, as you were talking there, it made me think of something connected with my job. Now, one of my jobs is I'm a visiting stroke supply teacher, and one of the agencies that I work for, they asked me how would I like to be communicated in the mornings when the calls come in. So they asked me whether I want a phone call or I would prefer them to message me through WhatsApp.
Oh, okay.
And normally I say go through WhatsApp because I can just see it and I can sort of figure out. Yeah. But I said I don't mind being called at the same time because I know what the call's about. It's when a call comes through, maybe, and it's connected with something else. That sort of puts me out of sorts for a little bit. Yeah. But I know it's because it's them. I can sort of figure out what it is that they want. But it's nice that the options are there, which is something that maybe could be extended to more people and more organisations.
More situations, absolutely.
Our last contribution came through from Sammy YFS via Instagram, a regular contributor. They describe a toxic relationship with their phone. They enjoy socialising on it, so being part of those online communities, but it also, there's a feeling of anxiety about it as well.
Yeah, and I think we've kind of touched on that throughout the episode, haven't we? It is very much, it can be a real positive. Your phone can give you comfort. It can kind of be something that you rely on in certain situations. You can be social through your phone, through all the different, social media apps. But then, there's the complete other side of calling or having to have conversations on the phone, and that can create such feelings of anxiety for some people.
It comes down to choice, as we said with the last contribution, in that speaking on the phone isn't always the way to communicate.
No.
And also, if we look at it through, it's all those expectations, this is what's expected, this is what's always been done. When actually, if you challenge it and base it with your evidence, as it were, then I think you've got a compelling case there to have your needs be known about how you would like to, communicate and interact.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's about, we've talked about before, kind of strategies and coping strategies. And I think, an important thing is to think about the amount of time you're on your phone, trying to have some balance there, setting boundaries, whether that's not answering a phone call. I think it's okay to not answer a phone call if it's giving you anxiety and you need to just take 5 minutes and then call them back. Kind of putting those boundaries in and listening to what you need, and kind of thinking about the amount you're on your phone.
That's it. And also, you can let it go to voicemail. If it was really important, then they would leave a message. You can listen to the message, and then you can judge your next steps from the answer phone message. And as you said, it's okay. Once you feel more prepared, then you can call back.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you need to, or you text back, and if they've understood where you're coming from, then they may text back.
Yeah, and also there's loads of great, we've talked about before, social media groups and things for social anxiety. So your phone can be a really positive thing. You can find people that are like you. You can join groups, and all of that's really great. But you don't want to, I suppose, get to that point where you are over-reliant on your phone to the point where it's maybe hindering those actual real-life connections and conversations.
So, bringing it around to social situations again, if you weren't allowed to have your phone, or, I don't know if we go as far as to say, don't take your phone with you.
Yeah.
What would you do instead if you didn't have your phone with you at social events, and that social anxiety, you could feel the social anxiety becoming more and more prevalent?
Yeah.
What would you do? What can we do?
Yeah, I suppose for me, I would probably take myself off more often. I do make a point of kind of taking myself outside to get some air, or like just walking off for a few minutes and, I don't know, going to the toilet, or just, something that kind of just takes me away for a couple of minutes. I'd probably do that a lot more regularly if I didn't have my phone.
I think I would still probably be looking elsewhere rather than the person that's talking, because that's my way of listening to what they're saying. And people may still arrive at the same judgment, in that they may think I'm not listening to what they're saying, but I am.
Yeah.
And then it will always seem to be the sort of later on in that conversation, something personal will come to mind, and then I'll be able to get into that conversation. But there have been times I have left my phone at home.
Yeah.
But I know that the social situation I'm going to is short.
Yeah.
So something like, even like going to the shop, I've left my phone here.
Yeah.
If I'm meeting someone for coffee, if it's local here, I have left my phone at home. But then I need it, because if that person's running late, or if I'm running late, I need a quick way of letting them.
Yeah.
Apart from I mean, do they still have phone boxes now?
Oh God, do they?
I don't know. Do they? Because that's what we would have done, wouldn't it? We would have gone to the phone box,
so
or we would have just waited for them.
Yeah, but then I suppose, let's say you were going to a social event where you knew there was going to be a lot of people and you wouldn't really know many of them at all. I imagine leaving your phone behind would be much harder.
Oh, I'd be taking it with me.
Yeah.
I think, coming to a conclusion now, phones are now, they're integral parts of our lives, but from our contributions, they're a significant source of anxiety. I think it's understanding our own triggers and implementing our own coping strategies. We can then start to navigate the use of our phones more effectively.
Yeah.
So we invite you, as normal, if you would like to comment on the episode, you can always comment on Spotify. As a comment section on Spotify. Email us at socialanxietylife2023@gmail.com, or join our private Facebook group called Social Anxiety Life Podcast.
Yes, and thank you so much to everyone who sent in contributions for this episode.
Until next time, thank you.
Bye.